My wife said her brother needed a place to stay. Now she's crying because I found their text from when they were teenagers. I'm a 37-year-old man. Been married to Camille for nearly 10 years. We have a 5-year-old daughter, Lee. From the outside, our life probably looked perfect. Middle-class suburb, decent house, to stable jobs. One of those couples you'd see smiling at the park with a stroller and matching sunglasses. But 2 weeks ago, I opened her old iPad to set it up for Lee to use. And what I found changed how I'll see my wife forever. The worst part, it started with something that felt kind. Camille's younger brother, Paul, came back to France after spending years abroad. He's 33, single, no kids, works as a freelance photographer. He'd been living in Argentina, then South Africa, and more recently Portugal. Never stayed anywhere long. When he called Camille and said he needed a place to crash, just for a few weeks, she didn't even ask me. She told me, "Paul's coming. He needs time to figure things out. You'll love having him here." I liked Paul. He was charismatic, always had stories. Funny, too. The kind of guy who could charm a waiter into giving you a free dessert. So I said yes. He moved into our guest room, brought 2 bags and a box of old film rolls. He kissed Camille on both cheeks when he arrived, held her a little longer than necessary. But I figured they were just clothes. I didn't pay attention to the way they looked at each other in the kitchen. The private smiles, the shared glances, the late-night conversations I wasn't invited to. I figured they were catching up. Siblings, right? Then Lee started repeating things. Uncle Paul said Mommy used to sneak into his room. I asked what she meant. She said, when they were teenagers. He said they shared secrets at night. I laughed, nervous, shrugged it off. Kids mix things up all the time. Until one night, I walked into the living room and found Paul massaging Camille's shoulders. She jumped like she'd been burned. He stood up fast and said, "She pulled something lifting Lee." I didn't say anything, just nodded, but my stomach twisted in ways I didn't understand yet. The next day, Camille left her iPad on the dining table. I wanted to erase it so Lee could use it. That's all. But before I reset it, I noticed the Messages app was still open. Old conversations. Very old. Years back. Before we met. Before I even knew Camille. Most were with Paul. The first one I read started with, "I miss the way we used to sleep together." I froze. His reply, "Me too. Sometimes I still dream about it." I scrolled further. Messages from when they were 17 and 19. Explicit. Emotional. Not just teasing. Not just confusion. Full on intimacy. Discussions about hiding it. About what would happen if someone found out. I felt sick. This wasn't brother-sister closeness. This wasn't some flirty boundary crossing. It was something else. Something darker. And suddenly, everything made sense. Why Camille never talked about their childhood. Why Paul never stayed long in one place. Why Camille panicked whenever Lee asked about when Mommy and Uncle Paul were little. I didn't tell her what I saw. Not right away. That night, I lay next to her in bed, her back turned to me, while my mind raced. And I thought, did I marry someone who used to sleep with her brother? And worse, is it over? Or is it still happening now, right here, under my roof? I haven't confronted them yet, but I copied the texts. I sent them to my old phone because I need proof, and because I'm afraid that if I ask her to explain, I won't survive hearing the answer. I didn't sleep that night, not because of the messages. I mean, yes, they haunted me, but because of what they implied. If what I read was true, and not some twisted joke, then my entire marriage was built on a lie so deep I didn't even have the language to process it. In the morning, Camille was already downstairs. I watched her through the kitchen doorway, laughing with Paul as they made coffee together. She was wearing his hoodie. Not just any hoodie, an old, gray, stretched out one that didn't belong to her. I knew because I'd seen it before. Paul wore it the day he moved in. I stared at the back of her neck, and imagined grabbing her by the shoulder and whispering, "What the hell were you two?" But I didn't. Instead, I walked away. I spent the day in a haze. At work, I answered emails on autopilot. Every time my phone vibrated, I half expected it to be Camille, somehow sensing what I'd seen. But there was nothing. No message. No confrontation. Just silence. That evening, I picked up Lee from school. She was her usual bubbly self, but on the way home, she said something that nearly made me swerve the car. Mommy and Uncle Paul were cuddling on the couch. He was rubbing her tummy like when she had me. I asked, "When did you see that?" "Before school." Mommy said it's a special cuddle, like when they were young. I had to pull over. My hands were shaking. That's when I realized I wasn't imagining things. Something was still going on. Back at home, I acted normal. I smiled, ate dinner, bathed Lee. I didn't say a word. But after she went to bed, I watched Camille pour 2 glasses of wine, one for her, one for Paul, and hand it to him on the couch like it was a ritual. That's when I started recording. I set my phone up quietly near the hallway. No video, just audio. I wasn't even sure what I was hoping to catch. Proof. A confession. I just needed something more than those old messages. And I got it. Paul's voice. Do you ever miss it? Camille. Soft laugh. Don't start. Paul. I'm serious. I think about it all the time, especially now that I'm back. Camille. Don't say that here. Paul. Why? He doesn't see anything. He never has. Then silence. I stopped the recording. I wanted to scream. Smash something. Wake Lee and drive far, far away. But I did nothing. I sat in the dark hallway, clutching my phone like it was a grenade. At 11 p.m., Camille came upstairs and slipped into bed like everything was fine. I could smell wine on her breath. I turned to face her. Are you and Paul having an affair? She froze. It took her a full 5 seconds to answer. What? Are you sleeping with your brother? She sat up. What the hell are you saying? I saw your old texts. From when you were teenagers. I heard what he said tonight. I'm not stupid. Her face collapsed. Not into rage. Not denial. Into tears. No, she whispered. It's not like that. It was a long time ago. We were kids. We didn't know what we were doing. It only happened a few times. It's over. It's been over for years. I just stared at her. Then why is he back? Why did you let him into our house? Why does Lee see you touching like you're still? I made a mistake, she sobbed. I thought I could keep it separate. I thought I could help him without going back there. I didn't think it would come up again. Come up again, I repeated. So he wants it back. Silence. My chest felt like it was imploding. I need you to pack his things, I said quietly. He's leaving tomorrow. She cried harder. I can't. He has nowhere to go. I don't care. I snapped. He leaves, or I take Lee and you never see either of us again. She didn't answer. I slept in Lee's room that night. I still don't know what scares me more, that it happened or that Camille let it back in. The next morning, Paul was gone. No goodbye. No explanation. Just a folded note on the dining table. Didn't mean to cause problems. I'll stay away. I should have felt relief. I should walked into that kitchen and breathed again, knowing the man who haunted every room was finally out of our house. But all I felt was rage, because I didn't ask him to leave. Camille did. She came into the bedroom just after Lee left for school, red-eyed and quiet. I was still sitting on the edge of the bed, same clothes from the night before. I told him to go, she said. Good. He didn't argue. Of course not, I said. Why would he? He got what he wanted. You let him back in. You let him sleep here. You let him touch you again. She flinched. It wasn't like that. You expect me to believe nothing happened? No, she whispered. Because I don't know what happened anymore. I can't separate the past from now. I thought I could. I thought I was strong enough. That broke me. Because for the first time, I saw it. She wasn't strong. She'd been living with this poison for decades, and it had calcified into something she thought was manageable. Like a broken bone that never healed, right? I didn't want to understand, but I did. And that terrified me. You were 14, I said. He was 16, then 19, then 21. You were a child, Camille. She nodded slowly. My parents were always gone. We shared a room for a while. I didn't have anyone else. It started as games, then secrets, then touching, then she stopped. I waited. Then she whispered, he said he loved me, that no one else would. And I believed him. I leaned back against the wall. I didn't know what to do with that. Was my wife a victim, a survivor, or someone who let herself slip back into something deeply wrong? The truth is, it wasn't black and white. She'd never processed it, never told anyone, never got therapy. She buried it and married me like a woman trying to run from her shadow. But shadows don't go away. And now, mine was sleeping in the guest room, and drinking from our mugs. I need time, I said. She nodded. I can't trust you. I don't know if I ever really knew you. And I don't know how to be a father next to someone who's still keeping secrets like this. Camille broke again. She begged me not to tell anyone. Not her parents. Not Julian. Not our daughter. Especially not her. I just want to fix it, she kept saying. I'll go to therapy. I'll do whatever you want. I walked out. Not because I didn't care, but because I didn't know who I was supposed to be anymore. That day, I took Lee and stayed at my sister's house. I didn't explain everything. Just said Camille and I needed space. My sister gave me the spare key and a glass of wine. When you're ready, she said, talk to a lawyer, even just to protect yourself. I didn't want to, but I did. That night, I called one. Not because I planned to leave Camille, not yet, but because I needed to know my rights. Because the line between trauma and danger was blurred, and Lee didn't deserve to grow up in a house full of ghosts. The next morning, Camille sent me a voice note. She was sobbing. I told my mother about what happened. She hung up on me. That was it. That was the message. And somehow, that shook me more than anything else. Because this wasn't just our marriage unraveling. It was an entire family system cracking open, and I didn't know what would crawl out next. 2 days after Camille sent that voice message, I finally answered her call. She didn't cry this time. She sounded numb, like someone who hadn't slept, hadn't eaten, maybe hadn't stopped pacing since I left. I told my mom everything, she repeated. She said I was sick, that I was trying to ruin the family. I didn't know what to say to that. Her mother had always seemed proud, controlled, the kind of woman who didn't tolerate imperfection, especially not from her daughter. I asked, did she believe you? She heard me, Camille said, but she didn't listen. I could almost see it. Her mother putting down the phone, walking to the window, sipping her tea in silence, already rewriting the memory into something less shameful, something easier to bury. I think I need to talk to someone, Camille added. Professionally. I told her that was good, necessary. Maybe a decade too late, but necessary all the same. I want to see Lee, she said. Her voice broke on our daughter's name. I hesitated, not because I thought Camille would hurt her, but because I still didn't know if I could let them share space without feeling like everything was wrong. Eventually, I said yes. 1 hour. Supervised. Neutral ground. My sister's place. When Camille arrived, she looked wrecked. No makeup. Sweater sleeves pulled down over her hands like a teenager. Lee ran into her arms without hesitation, and that hurt more than I expected. They sat on the carpet together, building a puzzle. I stayed in the kitchen with my sister, watching from the doorway like a bouncer. At one point, Camille looked up at me and mouthed, "Thank you." I didn't respond. After the visit, she pulled me aside. I told Paul not to contact me again. I blocked his number. I deleted everything. I believed her, but I didn't trust her, and that was the difference I couldn't get past. You kept this a secret for over 20 years, I said. Even from yourself. She nodded. I know. You let him back into our home. I thought I could handle it. I didn't think it would stir everything up again. That's when I snapped. Quietly, like a blade, not a bomb. You let our daughter sit on the lap of the man who molested you. You let him make breakfast. You let him tuck her in. Camille, what the F*** were you thinking? She folded, fully, like her body couldn't hold her anymore. I didn't want to see it, she whispered. I wanted to believe I'd moved on, that we were just older. Different. Normal. Normal. That word hit me like a slap, because what was normal about any of this? Paul wasn't just a ghost from her past, he was the embodiment of every secret she'd shoved in a box and locked in the attic of her brain. And when he showed up on our doorstep, she didn't slam the door. She welcomed him. That night, I didn't sleep at my sister's. I just drove, up the highway, past towns I hadn't thought about since college. For 3 hours I let the road carry me while my brain tried to make sense of things that don't make sense. And then I made a decision. Not final, not forever, but real. The next morning, I went home. Camille was still there, sitting on the floor of Lee's room, surrounded by her little socks and tiny dresses, like she was trying to remember who she was supposed to be. I sat down across from her. I don't know if I can stay married to you, I said. She nodded. I don't expect you to, but I also don't want Lee growing up thinking love means hiding everything until it explodes. She looked up, hopeful. So what now? Now you start therapy. You start untangling this. And I focus on being a father. She asked, and us. I didn't answer, because I honestly didn't know. Camille started therapy the next week. I know because I dropped her off myself. She didn't ask me to, and I didn't offer it as a gesture of support. It was more like containment. I needed to see the building, to know she was walking through those doors, and not slipping back into some private delusion, where none of this happened. She didn't talk much during the drive, just stared out the window, picking at the skin around her fingernails like she used to do when she was pregnant. I hadn't seen her that vulnerable in years. When she came out an hour later, her eyes were red, but she was standing straighter. She got in the car, buckled up, and didn't say anything until we were halfway home. I told her everything, she said. About Paul. About us. About the way it started. I kept my eyes on the road. She said I was groomed. Yeah, I replied. You were. She turned toward me slowly, like she didn't expect me to agree. I added, that doesn't erase what you let happen when he came back. I know. We didn't talk about it more that day, but something shifted after that session. Camille started sleeping in the guest room voluntarily. She'd still come say goodnight to Lee, still help with dinner sometimes, but it felt more like a roommate arrangement than a marriage. She gave me space. I gave her distance. What neither of us could give each other anymore was comfort. One evening, I got home from work and found Camille in the backyard, burning something in the fire pit. She didn't hear me come out. I stepped closer and saw old letters, photos, even a notebook. What are you doing? I asked. She didn't look up. destroying the only proof I ever had that I wasn't crazy. That sentence messed with me, because for a split second, I wanted to tell her to stop, to keep it, that it might be important someday, for her, for therapy, for something. But then I remembered our daughter sitting on Paul's lap, and I said nothing. That night, I stayed up late reading the messages again, the ones I'd saved from her old iPad. The messages that started this entire collapse. I found one I hadn't noticed before, dated just weeks before we got engaged. Paul, do you ever think about what it would have been like if we hadn't stopped? Camille, every night. I don't know how I missed it, or maybe I did see it, and just wasn't ready to absorb what it meant. They'd never stopped loving each other, even if they hadn't touched again in years, even if she buried it deep enough to say yes when I proposed. It was always there. I started to wonder if I'd ever had her heart at all. I mean, really, how do you compete with someone who shaped your entire sense of love before you even knew what love was supposed to be? Camille told me once that Paul taught her how to kiss. I thought it was just a joke, one of those dark, offhand comments people make about awkward teenage years. But now, I couldn't unhear it. He taught her everything, and she never really let it go. I couldn't sleep after that. I went downstairs, poured myself a drink, and sat at the dining table staring at the wedding photo on the wall. We looked happy, and maybe we were. But now I knew that even in that photo, even in that moment, Camille was carrying a version of love I could never understand. It made me question everything, not just my marriage, but myself. Was I the rebound from a forbidden love? Was I the cover story for a secret she never wanted to face? Was I the safe choice? Or worse, was I just the one she thought would never find out? The next morning, I asked her directly, "Did you ever really love me?" She didn't hesitate. "I tried," she said. That answer shattered me more than anything else. I tried. That's what she said. That's what she gave me. Not, yes. Not, of course. Not even a lie to soften the blow. Just, I tried. And in a way, I respected the honesty. But it cracked something open in me that I haven't been able to put back together. That day, I packed a small bag, told Camille I needed time alone, away from the house, away from her. I left Lee with my sister again, just for the weekend, I said, but really, I didn't know how long I was going for. I checked into a cheap Airbnb half an hour away, just a studio above someone's garage. It smelled like cigarettes and broken dreams, but it was mine. And more than that, it was quiet. For 2 days, I sat with everything: the marriage, the betrayal, the childhood she never told me about, and most of all, the fact that I had built my whole adult life around a version of someone who never actually existed. Camille had been shaped by something so twisted, so complicated, that even she didn't have the tools to talk about it. And I, naive, well-meaning, stupid, I walked right into that mess and made a family with her. Now here we were. I got a message from her on Sunday afternoon. "Can you come home, just to talk, please?" I waited 2 hours before answering. I don't even know why. Maybe I hoped she'd say more. Maybe I wanted her to beg. But she didn't. I drove home that night, parked outside, and just sat in the car for a long time. Lights were on inside. Lee's nightlight glowed faintly in her window. Camille opened the door before I knocked. She looked different. Not like someone who'd slept or healed, but like someone who had finally accepted what couldn't be undone. She handed me a piece of paper, folded once, carefully. "I talked to Paul again," she said. "Just once. I asked him to write down what happened from his side. I didn't touch it. I thought you might want to see it." "I don't," I said. "But you should," she replied. I took the paper, unread, and slid it into my pocket. Then I asked her the only thing I really cared about anymore. "Did anything happen between you and him after we were married?" She looked me in the eyes. No. I believed her. Not because I trusted her again, but because this time, the silence around her answer wasn't full of shadows. It was just sad. Camille sat down at the dining table. I stayed standing. "I'm going to move out," she said. "Just for a while. Give you space. Give Lee stability. Maybe give myself some too." I Sholdv felt relief. I Sholdv jumped at the chance to reclaim my home, rebuild something normal for our daughter. But I just felt hollow. "This isn't something you can come back from, Camille." She nodded. "I know. There's no therapy that undoes this. No apology that fixes it." She nodded again. "I married someone who was in love with her brother, who never fully let go of him." "Ooh." "I know," she interrupted, her voice barely a whisper. "You don't have to say it again." But I did, because I needed her to feel it. Really feel it. "You let him near our daughter." She didn't respond. And that silence told me everything. Not guilt. Not shame. Just devastation. The kind that doesn't go away. Not in a year. Not in 10. Maybe never. I left again that night. Not to the Airbnb. Just for a drive. At a red light, I took out the folded letter Paul wrote. I didn't open it. I stared at it until the light turned green. Then I rolled down the window and let it go. I didn't want his version. I didn't care how he justified it. Some things don't get to be explained. The next few weeks passed in fragments. Camille moved in with a friend across town. Not back with her parents. They still hadn't called her since she confessed. Apparently her mother told the rest of the family that Camille was having a psychological episode and needed space. Not that she'd admitted what happened with Paul. Not that the golden daughter finally cracked open the family secret they'd spent decades pretending didn't exist. Lee stayed with me most of the time. We kept our routines, school drop-offs, brushing her hair at night, reading the same picture books for the 10th time. She asked about her mom, but not in a worried way. More like kids do when something's missing from the usual furniture of life. I never told her what happened. She's 7. All she knows is mommy is working through some things, and dad is tired a lot lately. Sometimes she plays in the living room and grabs her toy phone, pretending to talk to Uncle Paul. That's when I have to walk out of the room. I've started therapy myself, not because I wanted to, but because my sister insisted. At first, I thought it would be a waste. Sit in a room and repeat facts I already knew. My wife was abused by her brother, buried it, married me, and let him back into our lives like it was nothing. What was there to process? But on the 3rd session, the therapist asked me something I didn't expect. Do you think you were in love with the person she was, or the idea you created to protect yourself from who she really is? And that *********ed me up, because if I'm being honest, Camille was never fully present in our marriage. She loved me, yes, in her own way, but always with a part of herself locked behind a door I was never allowed to open. I assumed that was normal, that everyone had shadows, that I'd eventually earn my way inside. Now I know that door led somewhere I had no business entering. What still haunts me isn't just the past. It's the way she smiled while it was all unraveling. The nights we sat on the couch with Paul in the other room, her head on my shoulder, pretending everything was fine. She was good at pretending. Too good. Last week, I got a letter in the mail. No return address, but I knew the handwriting. Paul. I threw it in the trash without opening it. But for 3 nights, I couldn't stop thinking about it. On the 4th night, I pulled it back out. The envelope smelled faintly of his cologne, like that cheap, woody scent he always wore when he tried to act more grown-up than he was. I didn't read the whole thing, just the first line. I know I ruined your life, but I want you to know I never touched your daughter. I tore it in half, because the fact that he even felt the need to say that means he thought about it, or at least knew I was thinking about it. And the worst part is, he's right. He didn't touch her, but the idea of him almost doing it, the possibility that Camille's judgment was so broken she didn't see the danger, that's what I can't live with. That's what keeps me up. Some nights, I look at Lee while she sleeps and wonder what parts of this will stick to her, what she'll remember, what she'll feel when she's older and finally learns the truth. Because she will. Not from me. Not yet. But one day, she'll dig. Kids do. And when she finds the cracks, I don't know if I'll be able to look her in the eye and explain why I didn't run the moment I saw the signs. The thing is, I didn't stay because I was weak. I stayed because I loved Camille. Even after everything. Even now. If I let myself fall asleep without building the mental walls first, she still shows up in my dreams. The way she looked before Lee was born. Before the shadows returned. Before her brother became this again. And I hate that. I hate that the love I gave her still wants to crawl back. Even after she fed it poison. Maybe love isn't always good. Maybe it's just whatever's left when your illusions die. And I don't know what to do with that. Last Friday, Camille came by the house to pick up some boxes. She rang the doorbell, even though she still had a key. I noticed she didn't use it. I opened the door and Lee ran to her, wrapping her arms around her waist. Camille held her for a long time. Then she looked at me. I won't stay long, she said. I nodded and stepped aside. She moved through the house like a stranger. She didn't touch anything, didn't sit. She just gathered the small things, old books, a few shirts, a framed photo of her and Lee at the beach. She left our wedding photo on the wall. I don't know why that stung so much. Before she left, she asked if we could talk. Alone, we sat at the kitchen table. The same table where I'd once found Paul's stupid note. The same table where I'd read their messages. Where I'd eaten 1,000 meals thinking I knew who my wife was. She took a deep breath. I've decided to report it, she said. I looked up. Report what? To the police. About Paul. What happened when we were teenagers. I froze. I hadn't expected that. I don't know what good it'll do, she said. There's no evidence. No one will believe me. But I have to do it for me. Not to punish him. To stop punishing myself. I didn't say anything, not because I disagreed, but because it felt too big, too late, too much like trying to put out a fire after the house had already burned down. Still, I admired her for saying it, for doing something. I've also started trauma counseling, she added. Real therapy this time. Not just weekly check-ins. The hard kind. The kind that makes you cry in your car afterward. I almost smiled. Almost. Then she reached into her bag and pulled out a small envelope. I wrote something for Lee to explain. Someday. You don't have to give it to her now. Just keep it. If I ever disappear completely, she deserves some version of the truth. I took it, held it like it was made of glass. We said goodbye without hugging. She walked out the front door and didn't look back. I stood there in the hallway, envelope in one hand, memories crashing around my skull like debris in a storm. I felt everything and nothing. Rage, grief, guilt, pity, love, maybe, or what was left of it. Later that night, I sat outside on the porch after putting Lee to bed. I stared at the sky for a long time, and I thought about the word family. How much damage it can do when it's twisted. How much silence it can hold when people are afraid to break it. I don't know what will happen next. Whether Camille will follow through with her report. Whether Paul will face consequences. Whether Lee will one day hate us both when she finds out the truth. All I know is this. I married a woman who was broken in places I never saw. And I don't blame her for that. But I do blame her for pretending she wasn't. I'm trying to raise our daughter differently. With light. With honesty. With protection. Even if it means telling her hard truths one day. Because lies, no matter how noble or necessary they feel, rot everything from the inside out. I still hear from Camille. Sometimes. Updates from therapy. Questions about school pickup. She's trying. I give her that. But I'll never unsee what I saw. Never unread those messages. Never unhear the word. Every night. Sometimes I think I've healed, that I've rebuilt, that I've moved on. But then I wake up in the middle of the night, sweating, heart pounding, certain that Lee's door is open, even when I know I locked it. And I don't know how to live with that. I don't know if I ever really will. Follow me for more stories.